the directors of The Bra, A Sacred Gaucho, Phoenix, Autsajder, and the cinematographer of Nervous Translation. To introduce them, we'll begin with Mr. Veit, Helmer, the director of The Bra. The Bra is written, directed, and produced by Mr. Veit Helmer, who has been making films since the age of 14. And he has won over 150 awards, where his first feature film, Tuvalu, earned more than 32 awards. A Sacred Gaucho is a bilingual film in Spanish and Guarani, written and directed and produced by Mr. Joaquin Pedretti. The film story is about a farm laborer's search for a child that he lost in an accident. And in the process, he transforms into a popular hero called Gochito Gil. Sacred Gaucho has its world premiere at this festival, IFI. And the director has made more than 20 pieces in different genres and formats. Phoenix is a Norwegian film directed by Miss Camilla Strom Henrisken. It tells a story of Jill, a caring and responsible teenager who handles her mentally ill mother in the family. When her estranged father visits her on her birthday, amidst a tragic situation, Jill keeps it a secret. And as Jill leaves her childhood behind, the arrival of her father offers a glimpse of a different life. The film is the directorial debut of the actress and the London Film School graduate. She is known widely for her acclaimed appearances in the film Weekend and A Handful of Time. Autsajder is a Polish film written and directed by Mr. Adam Sikora. In the film, the protagonist, Franek, is a student of painting, and by coincidence, he gets involved in the cogs of a horrific totalitarian machine. The film will see Franek have his sensitivity and humanity tested. Adam Sikora is a true artist, as he is a documentary and feature film director, screenwriter, cinematographer, photographer, as well as a painter. And finally, we have the cinematographer to the film Nervous Translation, which is a Filipino language film. Set in the late 1980s, Nervous Translation talks about an 8-year-old Yale, a girl who is shy to a fault, but finds out about a pen that can translate the thoughts and feelings of nervous people. Thereafter, the child decides to spend all her savings on this miraculous pen. So we'd begin the press conference by listening to Mr. Veit Helmer.
Hello, good afternoon. I don't know how many people of you have seen my movie. It was yesterday shown at the Kala Academy. And for me as a filmmaker, it was a real rewarding, beautiful screening, as it was packed full. I mean, I'm sorry for those who couldn't get in. And what I wanted to do, and I was a little bit surprised that it's not a tradition here to have a discussion. So before the screening, I asked the audience if they wanted, and everybody screamed yes. So I came back after the screening, and it was amazing discussion, like half an hour, until somebody came in and interrupted us for the next screening. So as a suggestion, I think this festival is amazing, but I think as we filmmakers travel a long way from South America, from Philippines, from Europe here, it's the communication with the audience is really important, and it would be nice for the festival to institutionalize a kind of question-answer session after every movie, because I think also for the audience it's really nice. It's a difference between a normal screening and a festival screening. If there is kind of a discussion with the filmmakers, I could myself feel that urge by the audience. Even after half an hour when I went out, like 50, 100 people came to me and still asking me questions. So I think this festival is perfect, and just this little criticism I have, or this little suggestion to make that festival perfect.
Right. Thank you, sir. We'll definitely look into that. Next, I invite Mr. Joaquin Pedretti to share his thoughts.
Hi. Well, our film is based on the popular hero, you can call it hero, who represents the poor people and the villains. So it's got this particular structure because it's based on how they tell their tales, you know, how they're based on their narrative. And it was so important for us to have our world premiere here because it's also based on the symbolic tradition of India and Argentina. We found the same kind of archetypes. So I was so glad to, as he said, to hear some people saying that they were so impressed about this kind of characters and this kind of structure. Although I know people here is used to a different kind of structure or a classical film structure or narrative. So it was very interesting, and I'm so happy to be here, and they are treating us so well. And I'll be glad to answer to your questions. Don't know.
Thank you, sir. Next, I invite Ms. Camilla Strom Henrisken.
Thank you. Yes, it's a privilege, and I'm very happy to be here with my debut, Phoenix, which world premiere in Toronto in September. And since then, we've been traveling around the film, and it's very special to be here. We had a very good screening this morning. I was amazed to see that the auditorium was full, and that people from a very different culture than the Nordic and Scandinavian culture, also within the family, responded so heartfelt and emotional to the film, which was very touching for me. The film is about children who have to take the responsibility as adults because the parents fail. And I think this is a theme that resonates with many people, actually, even though the circumstances can be very different. It's based on a personal experience for me as a child, obviously highly fictionalized, but it's true. It's close to my own personal experience on an emotional level, and the family dynamics is very close to my own experience. And it's taken me 12 years to make the film. It was hard to get it up to the screen. I think also because it's quite dark film, if any of you have seen it, you might agree with me. It's quite dark, and it's also it's a film for grown-ups mainly, but as with children as main characters. So it's a realist drama, but it has kind of magical realism elements into it. So it's already a mixture of things, which makes it hard for people to label it, and then it's hard to get it financed. But I'm very happy that the festival audience and also the cinema audience in Norway are receiving it very well. So yeah, it's a shame that it's only one screening in Goa, but again, I was very happy to see their response today. So if there's any question, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, I invite Mr. Adam Sikora.
Hi. Sorry, but I'm in difficult situation because, you know, my English is not so perfect. You know, this is stupid, but it's not so perfect. And for me, it's really difficult speaking in this language. But this is my last film, and I'm mainly in DOP. Sometimes I'm director, and this is film about very difficult time in Poland in 80s. You know, and we have very strong, very strange political situation. But mainly this is about young man. You know, what happened with him during this difficult time. In some parts of the story, this is my own story because I was in similar situation many years ago, and I think that this is all. If you saw this film, that will be interesting for me, a reaction or maybe reflection, because this is completely different culture, I think, and this is typical Polish film, you know. But we have Polish problems with the films. Then we are very interesting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And finally, I'd like to invite Ms. Dennese Vitoria.
Hello, thanks for having me here. So, Nervous Translation is really just a small film. So I'm just a cinematographer. So when it premiered in Rotterdam, it won the Netpack, but also it became part of the screening of films that people either hate or love. And earlier, so the screening was on the 21st and today. So I stayed for the whole thing, and so many people walked out, but there was this one person who like stayed until the end. And you know, like they say, you just need one person in the room, and it was very good. So yeah, because Nervous is to me, it's the first film I've been listed as a cinematographer, because I'm actually a photographer or visual artist, and I think they got me because I'm shy, and the girl is shy, and the director is shy, so it's kind of that. And then, but yeah, it's quite small. It's really quiet and internal. But what I personally like about it is, you know, how memories can be really imperfect, and like certain things become big and certain things become small, and yeah, maybe that's the charm of it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Now, the floor is open for questions from the audience. Okay, so
There's a question.
Good evening, everyone. My question to Mr. Veit Helmer. Sir, I saw your movie last night. I really amazing movie. My question is, what was main intention behind the making movie without dialogue?
I think one of the books which brought me to filmmaking. I'm not from a filmmaking family, but there was this book by François Truffaut when he interviewed Alfred Hitchcock. How have you done it? I think it's called the translation, and they talk about the use of dialogue in movies. And there's this quote that Alfred Hitchcock said: "Whenever you use dialogue, that's something lost for the audience in cinema. The cinema should be about visual storytelling." And then I researched, and I couldn't find any film without dialogue done by Alfred Hitchcock, and that was always a challenge. I thought, wow, I have to do it. And I did some short films during film school, and everybody said, yeah, short films, that's not difficult. So my challenge was to make a feature film, and that was my debut film, Tuvalu, 20 years ago, which traveled really well and was something which was very close to what I wanted to do. And I don't know why I didn't do it the last 20 years after Tuvalu. I did many films with dialogue, and they felt, let's say, more normal, like everybody could make them. And going to Baku and finding that location where the trains pass next to the houses, and thinking about the train driver, about his urge to find someone in his life, that immediately I knew I have something which I could make again without dialogue. Because most screenplays, you just cannot erase the dialogue and make the movie. So to make a movie without dialogue, you need the story for it, or not story for it. But I like to do narration. It's not that I do like to just make collage of visuals. I really want to do storytelling, and I don't want the audience to miss the dialogue, to feel something missing. So that story I knew could be easily done without dialogue. And as a producer's point of view, I can say, okay, it's extreme art house, for sure. It's not what you can show in the mainstream cinemas. But then on the other hand, for exportation, it's super. You know, you can sell it very well because you don't need to dub it or subtitle it. And again, for me as a director, it's sometimes frustrating when I'm in other countries and I have films with dialogue, and I don't know how the translation is. People come and say, oh, the subtitles were really bad. But what can I do? I cannot learn Japanese to make perfect Japanese subtitles. Or, I cannot dub it in France. I cannot do that. So it's always, we directors, we want to have control of everything, And the dubbing and the subtitling is something we have to give to others. And I don't want that. I want to keep the control until the end. So that's another way to keep somehow the art. It's somehow beautiful. You have one DCP, and that can travel. It can, the film, as you saw it here yesterday, it's the same one which was shown in Tokyo 2 weeks ago. It's shown tomorrow in Tallinn. It's shown in Moscow. It's everywhere. People can watch the same film, and they can. And that was amazing, like seeing people react here, actually more strong than in Germany. In Germany, people don't get sometimes the humor, and here, people was really catching the stuff as I imagined it. Actually, I saw the film maybe the first time here as I wanted to see it with the audience. For me, I want to make movies for audiences, and yeah, I mean, I don't mind if people walk out, but it hurts a little bit. It hurts. So I was happy the people didn't go out. Did I answer the question? Okay, thank you.
They can hear me, right? Sis, the way you said that you're from Germany, she's from Norway, and people all around the world are so different and diverse in their culture, in the way they think. How do you make a film that can connect to everyone, like all if since we are here at International Film Festival, and we are showcasing films to different part of the world and different mindset and things like that. So how do you make sure that your film is connected to each and every person and that reaches the chord?
Do you want to answer this?
Go. I think Camilla, you can answer this.
Well, I mean, I just made the film. I just made the film how I could make it. I didn't really. I agree. Obviously, I want to reach an audience, but I don't think about reaching audience from in different cultures. I make it from a very specific point of view, and I think by staying true to that point of view, hopefully it will transcend to other people. But I don't really have how to reach other people from other cultures in mind, if that was your question, Yeah. I just think that if you are very specific about what you do, you will reach an audience, not every audience, but you will you will reach the audience that is that you are meant to reach. I guess. I don't know. I can't explain otherwise. Okay.
Is there a difference?
Yeah, I mean, I wrote the script too for my film, and I'm also writing now for television, which is more commercial. And I worked in soaps as well for TV, so I worked in quite commercial. So in commercial films and TV, you work within a quite stricter format. Where I think in an art house film, you are freer. So you are freer to move. You're free to break the rules, basically. And I think for the festivals, it's probably more art house. So I guess you're freer.
Think like a Zulu person.
Sorry, can again?
Think like a Zulu person when you make for a film festival.
Yeah. Yes.
And for commercial, you're open.
You are more restricted, I would think, when you write commercial scripts.
I think the art house movies are so much more interesting, and I don't understand. For me, this is a mystery. Why are the art house films are not so much more successful, and the mainstream films? I mean, it's not that I don't watch them. I mean, at least I have to watch them on the airplanes, and I just don't get it. I don't understand why people, maybe it's the big machinery, but it cannot be only about the machinery. So for me, I mean, I guess art films, as you say, it's all personal experiences, personal stories. It's not thought of being successful in the first place. It's an artist's expression. It's the basis, and the artist's expression, we share the same problems in all the countries. We are lonely, we hurt each other, we misunderstand each other, people suffer, and that creates drama or comedy or tragedy, and that's what can everybody understand around the world. I think there's no need to think how I can talk to universal audience. If you talk about something very personal, then everybody in the world will understand.
I also think that that we were talking yesterday about that with Rodrigo, because he presented his film here and it's in competition, and I think that everybody here knows how to write, like a classical structure. It's not that, at least me, I'm not against that, but I do want to be truth to the thing that takes me to that movie, and maybe that does not have this structure. It is something first that you attend to, and you want to be truth to it. Is truth the word? You want to be truthful. So it is beautiful sometimes to see, and it happens in festivals, that you see that truthfulness, and I love that, because I do love people that go against that big structure, not because I am against it, but I am against this machine that he's talking about, because I think it colonizes us and is based on fear, and we should be able to go through that fear, in our films at least.
Okay, I have a question. Okay, yeah, please.
Camilla, I haven't watched your film, but you were mentioning it's hard to get it up on the screen. And I was wondering how you're doing now in terms of reception. I know that films with children can be hard to get out. And if you can talk about the reception of your film in North America and now that you're beginning to travel with it.
Yeah. Well, again, we're doing a good festival circuit, but the film opened in Norway in October, early October, and is still running, which is good for a small film. Even in small screening rooms, but still it's on, so that's good. It's going to open in Sweden in January. It's a Swedish-Norwegian co-production, funded mainly by the Norwegian and Swedish Film Institute. So in a way, they have a responsibility to give the film a chance, at least. So yes, I think critically and for the audience, the people who choose to see it is doing really well. But as a commercial or distribution-wise, it's difficult. We just recently got a sales agent. It was very difficult to get one, actually, even though we were in Toronto and we were also in work in progress in Gothenburg in February, and got a lot of interest from a sales agent. But in the end of the day, when the film was there, they thought it's good, but it's hard to sell it really. So it's also because the film is a little bit of a hybrid, I think, as I tried to mention. I think it's still, even for an art, it's not like a hardcore art house, I would say, but it's I don't know, it's a small film, quite dark, quite slow.
Do you find that there is an element of reluctance to talk about mental illness still?
I mean, that differs from culture to culture. In Scandinavia, it's quite open. But I found we were in Reykjavik International Film Festival, and Iceland, even though it's the north, there's quite taboo there. The suicide rate is very high, and they eat a lot of anxiety or what it's called, medicine for nervous problems and mental problems. So they found the film really interesting. They are interested in distribution because it's a taboo in Iceland still, and they felt that the film could help throw light on that problem. And also in the previous Eastern Europe countries, also interest there, because I think they have the same kind of taboo. So I think that differs a lot from country to country, whether this is resistance towards the subject matter. But I don't know. I think it's more of a commercial issue, to be honest. That is, it's a film that is maybe it's a bit hard to label. Maybe it's not art house enough for the art house audience and not commercial enough for the others. I don't know. I don't know. But I think, you know, I think it will have a slow build, but I think actually it will get distributed. What's it called?
Distributed.
Thank you. In selected places.
Well, congrats and good luck.
Thank you.
Maybe I have a question to the Indian audience here, to the journalists. I was talking to one distributor this morning who told me that El Mujer Fantástico, the Oscar-winning film, just had a release here for a limited days. I mean, it was pulled out maybe after the first weekend. So it's very hard to find screens for foreign language films, so non-American films, I would say. You have, I mean, we envy sometimes India because you have a strong local film production, which is really super successful. That's something which is amazing, which I really admire. And then you have some American movies, but all the other movies from all the other territories, countries like Europe, like Latin America. What is the possibility? What could be done? That I know there's a festival circuit here. There's many festivals in India which really support the independent cinema, which is really good, like this event, which I'm really happy that it exists. But what else could be done that films, more diverse films, could be released, let's say commercially, maybe not in the mainstream cinemas, but in some kind of art house circuit, cinema clubs? Does anybody can talk about that?
I think one of the reasons might be the translation now. So you won't have that problem. But India is a country of diverse languages. We have major 8-9 languages which are spoken by millions, I mean crores of people. So I think translation of those foreign movies into local languages will help more. You won't have that problem. But other movies which come with various dialogues, they need to be translated into all those regional languages. Translating that just into English and Hindi will take it to only a limited number, 40% of the population. 60% will be left out if it is not translated into those regional languages. That's what I guess might be the kind of solution.
The dynamics has changed.
Everybody wants to listen to you.
So the dynamics have changed because of the OTT platforms that has come. So now even Indians, they don't want to see their own language movies in cinema unless and until it has a cinematic experience to it, like a 3D effect, like Bahubali, which did really well, or any other action movies which are doing really well in America. We don't want to go watch any other cinema or art cinema in cinema because we are getting that in Netflix and Amazon. So that the OTT platform and the platform which is available right now in India, that has a huge impact on the youth at least, I feel. So,
Yesterday, I was surprised because yesterday one young guy came to me and said like, "Wow, I really loved the film and I was so touched by it because we cannot see that kind of movie here, and I do love that, but I want to do that kind of film, but I feel like shy." And I said, "Well, why?" And he said, "Because they won't support it, like people won't support it," and that is so so sad because. Why, man? It's what you feel. You cannot say what you feel. Like I when I got here, I was so impressed of how many people you could see in the queues and stuff, and I was so it was beautiful to see that. And I thought, yeah, whoa, they do love cinema, and because at least in my country, you don't see that. They just go to the major films and stuff. And they don't watch Argentinian films, and it's sad. So I can understand this guy, but I told him that do not stop, man. You should push your generation for, open their minds and know that there's lots of films, beautiful films that are not attached to that structure or even the language. That they don't have that language issue, and. I don't know. We should do that. It's a personal thing. You should be able to watch or feel different kinds of films, or even if you don't do it, at least do what you feel like doing. Don't follow the the rule.
Yeah, my name is Suresh and I'm from Online Media. I just wanted to check with you. A movie watched in a theater, the INOX, the normal theaters, on a television, on a DVD or on your laptop, iPad, on a mobile. The experiences are different. But how do you plan a movie when you're making a movie that about taking all this into consideration?
You asking me how do I plan a movie for theaters?
Not to you, all the movie makers. I mean, some insight you could give us. Might be we could plan our movies better.
Maybe the cinematographers talk about it, yeah. Simultaneously for cinema, mobile.
I prefer screen, This is simple.
More, but there is a big viewership in the other ones, like the mobile ones. And the viewership of your movies are more.
She wants to say something.
Maybe, I'm old man and I prefer screen, I'm not doing films for mobile or something different,
Do you want to say something? I heard a Colombian filmmaker, she's an artist, a visual artist, and said something very interesting that I could understand. She says that now we're assisting to the death of the totem, no, and we start to pay attention to the locusts, and maybe we have to adapt to that or even die with it. It's just a decision that he knows what he wants, and I do know that at least in my personal experience, to show something in a theater is something. It has no. You cannot compare it, and so it's not something that you could well, let's do it for cinemas and for. I cannot do it because I work for theaters. I do want the film to be at theaters and not in a mobile. It's a completely different thing.
Sorry, but I have to talk one thing more. And I prefer screen, and I prefer 35 millimeters, And I did films only on 35 millimeters, This is good.
So maybe I'll speak up about like the question of the girl, and maybe also in terms of an audience. So you were saying about why like these films are not reaching out more people, and she was telling about if we think about people we want to reach. So unfortunately, like the filmmakers I've worked with, they're quite art house, so I don't think they think about the people. But even like for me, as someone who works with images, I feel like so much about it is recognizing what's being offered to you. And right now, as Veit has said, we're just like hurting each other, we're lonely and everything, and it takes a while to adjust to the language, to receive what's being offered to you. And maybe that's what's the difficult thing. Not that nothing is being offered, but it's just like you have to wait for it. You have to sit with the language until you're inside the screen, maybe. So that's how I feel as an audience. It's not always, as an audience personally, I don't always have time to give the film. Maybe that's the sad part, maybe, for me.
I never think about audience.
Do you think there is a scope for such type of movies which has no dialogues?
No, I don't think that that this will become a trend. Actually, I even don't want it because I do something very unique. If everybody would do it, it would be very boring. I said there's really a limitation on the scope of stories and storytelling. There was The Artist, but many films, they become so retro, and then they become like silent movies, and the acting becomes goofy. This is not what I really would suggest. But to answer also to add something to big screen, small screen, I think if a film works really well in cinema, it will also work on the small screen. I think if a film story is strong, it doesn't matter. I still prefer to go to the cinema. I even would prefer to shoot every film on 35 millimeter, but I think that is a kind of dream which we might lose. I saw 5 years ago in Busan a movie, a French movie, and I couldn't even recognize anymore if it was shot on film or digital, and that was the time when I said, okay, goodbye. I mean, I cannot see it anymore. If I cannot recognize it, how do the audience can or not? I had this guy hired a couple of years who always took out the scratches and the spots in my movie, so to make the 35mm look more good and perfect. And he was really sad when I started shooting digitally, and I said, no, don't worry, I'll hire you again. And now he puts in all the scratches and all the dirt he collected for many years, and to make the film a little bit look more like lively. We take a lot of in consideration about grain, about anamorphic old lenses, to not have the digital perfect framing, but to have some more breathing in the frame.
This is obsession. Obsession.
Filmmaking is obsession, yes? Filmmaking is pure obsession, yeah. You must be crazy here 12 years to work on a movie. That's like, either you go straight to the mental station or you make a movie, you know?
Every journey is unique, so.
Do we have any more questions from the audience? Okay. I think we'll draw this press conference to a close. I thank the esteemed guests for gracing us with their presence. I also thank the audience for their questions, for really starting a dialogue here. And I'm pretty sure the dialogue can continue after the official closing of the press conference. So I thank everyone who's gathered here, and thank you.
Thank you.